Welcome to Behind the Story, where we discover the story behind your favourite stories. My name's Lisa Renee from the CoLab Press, and I'm also a Christian contemporary romance author.
And I'm Naomi Craig, author of the upcoming Ezekiel's Song. We have a great pre-recorded show with women's fiction author Susan Beatty, and just some really fantastic points about courage. But before we get there, what are you working on, Lisa?
Off to the editors as a rom-com amnesia story for My Funny Valentine that Tabitha and I did. So that's cool. And now, yeah, it's good to have a break. I really love the writing process, but pretty much I think for me, it just consumes me like day and night. Sort of I'm thinking about the story. I like when I go to bed, I'm thinking about it, and then I'll wake up and write little notes, and then I get up and can't wait to get on the computer, get the kids off to school. So it's good to have a break, mental break, I guess. So it was quite 2 weeks intense. Like we had a day off here and there, but anyway, I really love that. But it is, nice to just step into marketing mode and just have a break in a different way where you just sort of plod along doing your tasks. So I've got a launch on the 21st of June for About Time You Notice. So just putting all that kind of stuff in, newsletter swaps, ads and promo sites, and formatting the paperback and that kind of stuff. And my review team's sending in some reviews. And so, yeah, so that's going all good. What about you, Naomi? What are you doing?
You're amazing on how focused you are. So it only took you 2 weeks to write that?
Yes. Yeah. So wow. It's sort of like 2 chapters a day because we're doing a chapter a day, and then it's sort of an express because American time and Australian time, I'm writing while she's sleeping and vice versa. So we got it
out. Like you have a writing fairy right there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think co-writing has its advantages if you find the right person, and that you Tabitha's very easygoing, and I'm easygoing, I think, too. But I always, put it out, if you want to do this, what ideas. She sort of likes me plodding a bit, I think. And but I try and, give her space to be, take it where she wants, and we can be honest and say, oh yeah, maybe that's not too much.
That's terrible. Don't do that. So how long is each chapter? What is your word count on chapters?
Well, Tabitha writes longer than me usually, but I push myself sometimes. But what we did, we did split chapters, so that was easier to get the word count up to average of 2,500. Because if we did 10 chapters each officially of 2,500, that's 50,000. Now the novel needs to be 50,000 words. So this is for a box set, and there's over 25 full novels. And the box set's called My Funny Valentine. They're going for a US Today title. And so they're pre-launching it for 99 cents, and then for a few days into the launch on Valentine's Day. And then it will go up full price in Kindle Unlimited. So it's a very good deal. And that's why it will probably hit US Today pretty easily, because it's 25 full novels. It's like, for some people, that's a year worth of reading.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
And the authors, like, I've been reading some of the other stories. Yeah, they're great. Experienced authors, and a lot of them are rom-com, a lot of them Christian authors. So yeah.
Well, yeah, Lisa will be sure to have that pre-order link, so you can chime in and get 25 full-length novels, and also help them make their goal there. Yeah, be sure to subscribe to Behind the Story. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you can be in the loop with all of these good bookish author type news. We've got lots of good things happening. So.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll have extra, so each draw that we're going to have, I think we'll do an extra bonus. If you do subscribe, you'll get and let us know, put done in the comments if you subscribed, and that will be just an extra bonus into the draw. So every episode we have a giveaway, and Susan is giving away her new release, so we'll mention that. And we have a midpoint question that we will ask, and if you comment and answer that question, you will be entered into the draw. But before we get into the interview, Naomi, let's check in with you. What are you up to at the moment?
Well, it's been the end of the month. As we record, it's just the beginning of June, the end of the month, beginning of the week type of day. We had Monday off as a national holiday. So I've got a lot on my plate that is kind of stressing me out there. But it's, not just writing, but also with church and just different things that are on a timeline. So I've come to grips that it's okay. I just need to write what I can. I have a really great day, and I try to tell myself that if I work at this pace for this amount of time, then I will meet this deadline and blah, blah, blah. And then the next day I kind of bomb my writing time. So then I get really frustrated with myself for not making the goal. So the Lord's just teaching me to just go and don't keep planning all these unrealistic goals, because obviously it doesn't happen. So, but I'm checking things off my list and getting things organized. So we're trying to do a block party, and we weren't able to get a vacation Bible school this time around for church. So we're going to do a block party. So that's getting progressively better and all that. So I'll be gearing up for really in June, I'll be gearing up for getting my launch team going for Ezekiel's song. So that's coming up in a couple of months. So.
Ooh, awesome. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I've heard a good way with scheduling is, giving an idea of what days that you're writing, and then say you've got Sundays off or whatever, and then you might have a day where you, like for me, I get headaches, so I need to have a days that I'm just not going to do any writing or face the computer, and then sort of like, and make it realistic, that you might have a day that you only write 500 words or something.
Right. Yeah.
And and giving yourself a bit of time. And the good thing if people are self-publishing, they can put their pre-order, like even up to a year, they can put it quite far ahead. And then if you're on track and you're sort of what your internal goal is, and then you could just bring it forward and schedule your release, and then you can release it early. So
yeah, well, when I signed up for that Christmas novella, I was already deep into the research last year for this book, and I just really felt that I should do the Christmas novella. So I know that God's going to show up, but it might mean that when I submit my manuscript to you all for the critique, it's going to be partial, and then I keep working in July or whatever to finish it or whatever. But I'm just trying to let go, because it's obviously the more pressure I put on myself, then the less I write. So, because I'm awesome like that.
That's another thing, working in with a critique group, and you have a release, or you want to critique this time, and it might not work out, and then but sometimes it is good because you got this deadline and you got to get it ready for your critique group. So some people work good with deadlines, and sometimes it adds pressure. But cool. All right. Well, we'll bring on our guest. Is Susan Beatty is on her third career. She was a journalist, a state and national homeschool leader for 35 years, and is now pursuing her long life dream to be a novelist. Susan's catalogue includes several novelettes, a flash fiction devotional, a debut novel, and her recently released second novel. Susan, thanks for joining us on Behind the Story.
Thanks for having me. I love being here.
So Susan, for those who aren't familiar with you and what you write, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a Christian saved by grace, a wife of 48 years, a mother of 4, a grandmother of 6, a great grandmother of 5, and one on the way. Plus, there's a couple of other kids in there that have adopted us that we, are so glad to welcome into our home. I write women's fiction, Christian women's fiction.
Okay, so is that the only genre you write? All your books are women's fiction?
Yes, all of them so far. I have one that is, all of them are so far. I have one that is a flash fiction devotional. Mm-hmm. So there are about 15 flash fiction stories with a message and a prayer and a reflection and so forth.
Oh, that sounds great. Awesome. Yeah, flash fiction is a great way to really get the get the story out quickly on the page and hook the reader in. So even if people aren't a short, do short stories, it is a good exercise to do. So we're featuring The Fragrance of Violets. Life crushes us with its weight sometimes. Fiona's father abandoned her when she was 12. So when she learns that he's the groom's father in the wedding she's been assigned to manage, all the old hurts resurface. So tell us what sparked this particular story.
I knew someone once who went through a similar situation, and I didn't think that it was handled right. Certainly not in a Christ-like manner. And I wondered, how would it end? How would it progress if it was handled in a Christ-like manner, even if it was tough to do so?
The Fragrance of Violets is part of your Faces of Courage series. Tell us about the series.
It is about people facing courage, the need for courage in difficult circumstances, and how they find that courage. And my tagline is courage at the intersection of faith and grit. But there are many faces of courage. So, I want to show it coming from a lot of different angles.
Yeah, and what I appreciate about your books is that you get in there and it's gritty, it's real life. I think that's so beneficial to Christian fiction right now, and that you can, for me, it improves me as a person, as a reader. It gives me more empathy as a Christian, as a believer, because then I can have an idea of more is out there than just what I'm currently in the midst of right there.
Right.
So yeah, I really appreciate how you handle that. So who did you write this book for?
Well, I'd like to say that I wrote it for anybody who likes a good story, but that's a little vague. So I wrote it for someone who maybe has never gone through something like an abandonment. Most of us have gone through a need to forgive, but maybe not something like this situation. And I would like to, as you said, create empathy for that situation. Or maybe someone who has had to go through that will read it and feel encouraged, or maybe even spurred on to go and follow up and do the right thing if they haven't already.
So with your writing process, did you have to edit some scenes out, or did you go off a track and then you decide to change or anything? From your original concept and first draft, what did you edit out?
Well, I had to edit out all of the real life circumstances that I took the story from to protect the innocent, I didn't want it to be the same story. I wanted it to be its own story. And I didn't want anybody who may pick the book up who is aware of the original story and say, I know those people, because they're not those people. It's not the same story at all anymore. So I edited all of that out.
So Betty says, expect to do some soul searching as you read this story. So what was the Lord working through in your life as you're writing this?
Well, I discovered while writing this book that I was really judgmental with the people who had gone through the original story. And I realized that I had no idea what was, in their hearts, what was the Lord was telling them to do or not. And so I had to release that and just know that the Lord was in control of that. And I don't know whether it was ever resolved or not. I'm just going to have to trust the Lord it was. I also had to go through my own soul searching of forgiveness. Who do I still need to forgive? And work through that myself.
Yeah, excellent. It seems like the Lord just really uses our writing time. He has to teach us first before we can share the brilliant words with the others.
That's right.
So for a midpoint engagement question, comment below if you have struggled with forgiveness or being judgmental, and you find that parallel in fiction helps you. Comment below before to be entered into the drawing for Susan's book, and that is The Fragrance of Violets. So what is something, Susan, that people would be surprised to learn about you?
I am a complete I Love Lucy fanatic. I was brought up watching original I Love Lucy before it was in reruns. My father was a TV repairman in the late 40s and 50s, so we always had a TV. So watching I Love Lucy reruns is my ticket back to childhood, and it connects me with my parents who are gone now.
So a bit more about you. What's, other than the writing and the reading, I'm sure you're doing a lot of that.
Yes.
What's your favorite hobbies and activities?
Oh, I'm pretty sedentary, but I love watching old golden age movies. I love British TV. And I also love to go out to tea time with girlfriends. Just tried to do that this last weekend, and all the tea places were booked up because of the Queen's Jubilee.
Oh,
At least I think that's why.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. I love it. So what inspired you to start writing?
I have always wanted to write since I was in elementary school. I went into journalism and tech writing, and then the Lord threw me into the very early days of homeschooling. So I began writing as I was homeschooling my children and working in a homeschooling ministry. I began writing for homeschoolers, articles, books, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, never had the opportunity to write the fiction that I really wanted to write. And then I decided about 5 years ago that it was really time to retire from working full-time in the homeschooling community. And I knew it was the Lord's time for me to write the fiction that I've always wanted to write.
So you were reading a lot of fiction at the time? Were you reading Christian fiction or women's fiction?
I've read fiction all my life. And it wasn't until, I'm not even sure when I started reading Christian fiction, but Grace Livingston Hill was, like one of the first ones long ago, and then Frank Peretti, and a few of those. And since then, I read mostly Christian fiction. Although once in a while, I will read something that is not. But I have to be able to get through the first few pages, and if looks like it's going to be, beyond what I want to tackle, then I don't read it. But I like Christian fiction the most because that's what encourages me.
Right. So what would you say is your favorite genre to read?
Well, I love reading women's fiction. I like reading women's fiction, let's say that. And I love reading historical fiction. Someday I'd like to write it, but it's a lot of research.
Would you say that there's a common theme to your books?
Yes, definitely. My tagline is courage at the intersection of faith and grit. So all of my books have something to do with the characters finding courage through their faith and being forced, if you want to say that, to step out and do something for that. I think, but courage has many, many faces. So I like to write about a variety of things. It's not just, the what we would consider to be the hard, courageous things, but it takes courage to do a lot of everyday things in our lives. Sometimes just paying bills takes courage.
Yeah, for sure. What are do you have a critique group, and how do you connect with them?
Oh, yes, I have a wonderful critique group. We've been together for about 6-7 years or something. I can't quite remember, but we met originally through our local chapter of the American Christian Fiction Writers. People have come and gone over the years, but for about the last 4 years, we've had the same 4 gals. And in the beginning, only one of us were published. Now all 4 of us are published, and they're just wonderful, wonderful women. And I couldn't do without them.
Yep, same here with my critique group. So what's the best money you've spent as a writer?
A Christian Writers Conference, hands down. It gives you learning, teaching, it gives you encouragement. It's a place to make friends. I went with the idea to make connections, with agents and publishers, and that happens. It didn't really happen with me, but I think that the friendships that you can make with other authors and the learning is really important, and that just the whole atmosphere.
What is your inspiration for writing Christian fiction?
Well, I'm a Christian first, and I want to write to encourage and um, to give people uh, a sense of God's presence in their lives and to give glory to God. And I couldn't write any other way. I can't write non-Christian fiction because it's an integral part of what I write.
How do you find your faith impacting what you're writing?
Well, have to be in the Word, that's for sure. I want my faith to be part of the passion of my writing. And prayer, I have a prayer team that I write a monthly prayer letter to, and I don't think I could have done it without their prayers behind me, because writing the first book might be hard because of the theme and the story. And the second one was also hard, and the one I'm writing now is going to be really hard. So the prayer behind me is really, really important. I treasure it.
Excellent. And especially if you're writing, you know, deep themes and sensitive issues, and in which women's fiction often covers those things in Christian fiction. So awesome. Okay, so next question. Who are the 3 of your favorite Christian authors?
Oh, wow, there are so many. That's such a hard question to answer. But I guess if I had to pick 3, it would be Cynthia Rookty, Jenny Weitrop, and Sarah Sundin. Cynthia Rookty and Jenny Weitrop were authors that I took mentoring classes from at Mount Hermon Christian Writers Conference. And they were just such an influence on my life. And I want to write like them when I grow up. They're fabulous. And Sarah Sundin, just because I love historical fiction.
What advice would you give to someone just starting out before they write their first book?
I would say write your passion. If you are writing something, but you're dreaming of writing something else, you probably shouldn't be writing that thing that you're writing, because your lack of passion in it will show through. And I learned that. I began writing something else before I wrote my first novelette, and it just wasn't gelling. And I heard a speaker say those words, you know, if you're writing one thing and you're passionate and dreaming about writing something else, then forget that first thing. And I felt like God was telling me, you know, forget that first project, go on to what your passion was. And so that's what led me to write the first few books, novelettes, and then the novel.
Excellent. Yeah, that's good advice right there. Is if it's hard to write and you're not enjoying it, then maybe God has a different plan for you or a path for you. Well, great. Well, tell us, what are you working on next? When does that come out? What is it? What's the story behind that?
Well, I'm working on a book tentatively called Relinquished, and it's about a birth mother, about her feelings of moral failure, about her quest to help find a missing child who turns out to be her child that she gave up for adoption, and her feel the need that she has to fix everything. So it's scary because it's not just women's fiction, it's suspense. And I have not written suspense before. In one of my novelettes, I had a little bit of a mystery, but it was very minor. So this is big time suspense with FBI agents and, you know, all of those things. And that's a little bit scary. I have a friend who's an FBI agent, but he doesn't have time to read. He answered a few questions for me in the beginning, but he doesn't have time to read the scenes. So I'm just praying I get it all right.
The cool thing about that is that people aren't meant to know how they do things.
Unless an FBI agent reads it, of course, you know, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really interesting. So will that be women's fiction suspense, or is it romantic suspense, or?
Yeah, I think it's women's fiction suspense. Every book, most of the books I write, unless there's a married couple involved, but then there's natural romance, has always a little tiny bit of romance in it. There's a little bit of romance in The Fragrance of Violets, and there may or may not be in Relinquished. I'm still working that part out. But, you know, every reader likes to read a little bit of romance in what they're reading.
Yep, it's nearly in every movie and everything like that, even all the sci-fi stuff. So where can readers find you online?
My website is Susan, initial K, and my last name, Beatty. So SUSANKBEATTY.com.
Excellent. Well, it's good luck with all that's coming out and already out. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing with our audience on Behind the Story.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Susan, for being on the show. Remember, viewers, to connect to her and follow her on social media and check out her website. She's also giving an ebook copy of The Fragrance of Violets. So we just want you to comment on our midpoint question, and we'll flash that up on the screen now for you to enter. And also you get extra bonuses if you subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast.
And if you're here from the biblical fiction or historical world, comments team historical, let me know you're here. We'd love to have a variety of people on. And so we just want to make sure that we're getting authors on that you're interested in watching. So if you are from the biblical fiction community, I have my free novella. It's called On Desolate Heights. It is Balaam's story and his talking donkey, free to download to newsletter subscribers.
And it's an awesome story. So especially if you like gritty fiction, or straight off the page. But if you want something light and funny, The Fake Engagement Mistake, it is on audiobook and on ebook. It's free for my subscribers, and I'll have the link down below.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Behind the Story. Until next time, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Take care.